Hi everyone, welcome back to The Learning Gardener. If you haven't been here before, my name is Pip, and in today's video we are going to be transforming this horrible weedy courtyard that has been neglected since I moved into this property over 2.5 years ago, and we are going to be transforming it into a beautiful memorial garden for my son Oliver, who was stillborn almost exactly a year ago. As you can see, over the course of winter, which was ridiculously wet, the weeds that I had been trying to keep under control really took off like a rocket, and I had wanted to do this task over winter because it was just too hot to do it in summer last year, but unfortunately it pretty much rained all of winter, and as soon as winter finished it became piping hot this spring, and it's been, like, to be honest, pretty uncomfortable. Today is the only day on the forecast that is to be cool, so we are going to try and make the absolute most of it and try and get this area totally transformed. As you can see, we have done a lot of weeding in this area. It's not perfect, but it's about as good as it's going to get. Unfortunately, it's been very dry since winter, which has been good, but it has meant that the ground here is so hard that you can't even really dig out the roots of the weeds. So leveling this ground is going to be really, really difficult. I attacked the weeds here in parts of half an hour, which is kind of why you guys haven't seen a video in a little while. Also, I've been looking after my niece and nephew, which means that I really couldn't be in the garden, but this has been a multi-day project and a multi-person project. One of the things that my niece and nephew wanted while they were down here for school holidays was ice cream. I instituted a 10 helping points equals 1 ice cream policy, and my best friend's kids live 3 doors down, and they heard about the 10 helping points, and so the boys got really excited. Now these are teenage boys. They got really excited for some reason over ice cream, and they came round, and in about 2.5 hours they mowed and whippersnippered the lawn. They finished all the weeding here. They moved everything and made it beautiful and neat so that I could at least start on this area, and they moved some mulch, all to get 10 helping points and ice cream. So the kids have been amazing in helping, but because they're kids around, I don't like filming when there are kids involved. But we are now going to try and get onto this. It is not going to be a perfect pave job. I do not have the skill or the equipment or, to be honest, really the time and the physicality required to do that. And I've watched a lot of videos on it, but I'm not going to be able to do a perfect pave. We've had bundles and bundles of sand sitting around waiting for me to do this, and unfortunately I put them up against the fence to try and stop Birdie from having a fight with the neighbour's dog, and she's spread all the sand everywhere. But anyway, we're just going to do the best we can. We're going to make it as level as we can. I was going to paint the steps at the entries of the doors, but I don't actually have the paint, and because today's the only cold day, I'm not going to waste time today going into town to get paint. We can do that some other time. So what I'm going to try and do now is start leveling the soil, and bit by bit lay the pavers and just see how I go. And I'm just going to do the best I can. I can't afford to get someone in to do it, so that's all she wrote. Let's try and make this a beautiful area for Ollie.
Summer air waves through her long soft hair, faces just stop and stare, catching all eyes. So I hold you close, no matter where you go, through all the rain and snow, I'll be close behind. These threads won't come undone if you're worn down. I'll carry you home. soles of my shoes, walking in lines we drew. You said you're just passing through. 6 years have gone, so I hope.
After removing some of the existing pavers that I'd put down just to try and capture some of the mud off the dog's paws before they came into the house, I then tried to break up the soil. It was quite lumpy and uneven in this area, and just breaking it up a little bit allowed me to do a couple of things. Number one, it allowed me to pull quite a bit of glass out of the ground and chunks of rock and concrete and stuff that was left over from the building work that had been done. I also was able to rake it relatively level and then compact it back down and try and break up some of the larger chunks of rock. Then I put sand on and tried to level out any other small divots and things like that in the ground. I tried to be conservative with how much sand I used, both because sand is expensive and because I didn't have a lot. I had a lot less since Birdie had decided to scratch open most of the sandbags over winter, and as I said before, we had horrendous weather in winter, which was why this job didn't get done in winter when the weather was cooler, and that meant a lot of the sand washed away. So I wanted to use as little as possible, but I also wanted to make sure that there was a slight taper away from the house so that water would drain away from the house. Getting everything perfectly level was going to be a battle I wasn't going to win. Even if I tried to set up strings and things like that, I knew I would just end up spending the entire day messing about with strings, and it would still not be perfect because this is not my day job, believe it or not, paving courtyards. And so I figured I would just do the best that I could and level it out as much as possible and sort of eyeball it and use a level. But keeping it as I had it set up was a little bit difficult. The puppies were pretty enthusiastic about this entire process and kept running through the area while I was trying to get things done, and they would put their little paw prints everywhere, and then I'd have a new hole to fill, or Birdie would suddenly decide to sit down in the middle of the patch I was working on. But, you know, that's life with dogs, and you've just kind of got to make it work. I had no real plan for how I wanted to lay down the pavers. They're all, for the most part, recycled pavers that I found around the property at various points when I was cleaning it out after moving in, and so it was just a matter of trying to work out how things were going to fit together best that minimized gaps. And sometimes that meant lifting things back up after I did them, like this herringbone pattern that I tried to do because I love herringbone. But I quickly realized there was no way for me to end the herringbone pattern without having the ability to cut some bricks in half to end it. I kept thinking I would think of a way, but alas, no, I did not. And so I had to lift those and just kept placing the pavers down as best I could, as tightly as I could, and as level as possible. I would like to make that area behind me at the moment a little bit wider, but I need quite a bit of sand to build up the slope in that area, And as you can see, again, we found another high patch in the ground. So I just broke up the top layer of the soil so that I could spread it around a little bit more evenly and get everything leveled out. And we just kept going like this basically until my body said, no thanks, I'm done here. So it's day 2, and in theory today I wanted to not get bitten by a wasp that's coming right towards me, but I wanted to finish this project off because I was feeling really motivated about how it's looking. Like, I know it's not perfectly level at all. I have done my best to create a taper away from the house. I think mostly I've been pretty successful. Obviously we are going for the rustic charm appeal, and I know that a lot of the pavers are still wobbling and stuff, but like, I can only do so much and I can only afford so much sand. I went and picked up 5 more bags yesterday when I finished here, and lifting those 5 full bags as opposed to the 5 partially open, I mean not 5, but the many partially open bags that my dad had gotten on the cheap, like those 5 bags like pushed me over the edge and I'm destroyed, and I just don't think physically I can do the other half. I really want to though. It's like, oh, I just kind of wonder if I take it easy for most of the day, whether I'll be able to sneak some in this afternoon. But what we do have to do right now, irrespective of how cooked I am, is you can see Birdie's just wandered off that way towards all the supplies at the back. That's where the lizards are. It's where she's opened multiple bags of potting mix and spread them everywhere trying to get to the lizards. And just now she's cracked open 2 bags of eucalyptus mulch. So it's just so annoying. And it's obviously such a waste of product, but also like it's just going to make the job harder if I leave it there and then she spreads rubbish everywhere. So I'm going to move all the potting mixes and all of that sort of stuff out of this area. And yeah, we'll see how we go with the rest. But I'm really into how this is looking. This morning I kept peeking out the window when I was having a bit of brekkie, going like, well job, well done self, well done. Oh, it's fly season, is it, Raffy? Is there a fly? Hey? Anyway, we better get on with moving stuff before I am unable to stand up off this step, which is very nearly already the case. So as I relocate things that have either been deposited here because there was nowhere else to put them while I was waiting to do a job, or because it was raining, or I had to get stuff out of the back of the car before I went to work, or just clean up the lizard debacle. Something that I'm thinking about is there's obviously already pavers here. There were already pavers here when we moved in. Some of them are broken and need replacing, but it is level, like some areas more than others, but it's not rocky at all like what I've done, because I haven't put any sand in between it yet. Because the idea of lifting more sand is like, yeah, no thanks. But part of me is like, do I just replace the broken ones and leave the rest and just sort of work it in? Because this area is much lower than that area. So the plan was to build up this corner to taper the rain away. And whoever laid these tiles was a bit special, because they've laid them right up against the garage here, but not up against the house. So I'm just wondering if I can find the right shape tiles, pavers, to actually fill in the gaps there. And do I raise it up around the house and just fill in that and remove the broken ones and call it quits? Because then at least if this is lower, the water will still taper down here. It's obviously substantially less lifting. It's the same pavers that we would be using. They're in a bit of a rustic pattern anyway. So do I just do that? I don't know. Got to work out if I've got, I guess, pavers to fill that gap, because it would be a lot less work, like a lot less work. And we've also got things like bags of Australian native mix, potting mix, which have been sitting here for, well, since after I got home after Ollie died, because this was part of the plan, and my parents bought me the pots based on my plan to make a memorial garden. But the memorial garden was supposed to have David Austin roses, because I was picking the roses actually when he died, or I think I was. And so I associate that first bloom of roses with him, and I associate roses with him because the midwife social worker who takes you through a stillbirth, she said, oh, baby's skin feels like rose petals, and she was exactly right. And I knew that that's what it felt like, because I'd just been cutting roses. When I put him in his casket, he was on a bed of rose petals, and he was holding some flannel flowers. So they were supposed to be flannel flowers for the containers, but the flannel flowers all died because they were living in the pots. And I got some olive trees, and they're actually currently being attacked by black lacewing olive tree attacker. So I'm trying to rein those back in, and they're not selling flannel flowers at the moment, so I'm not really sure what I'm going to do with that. But that's not a problem for today. The problem for today is to tidy this and work out if I'm going to be lifting these pavers or not. And obviously at some point I will deal with this area too. There's a lot of potting mix and stuff that is for the pots, so there's no point in relocating them very far. Although Birdie's ripped open a packet of citrus mix, which is excellent. She's made quite a mess, my girl. I decided while I was inside basking in the coolness of the indoor temperatures rather than the borderline summer hideous hotness of outside, that I would give this a red hot crack in getting this done today. So we're just gonna see how we go. Now the main area we need to work on is around here and in this back corner. There are no paving tiles here. There are some in the back corner, but there's a gap between the house and the pavers because someone pretty special did the original paving. But this is when it rains where it tends to pool, and I obviously don't want it to rot the stairs that we had to put in when I moved in. Like, why do you have two doors with sliding door access on this side of the house with a courtyard with no stair to help you get out? Madness. Anyway, so it's a bit of a quirky house, but as I said, this is the main place where water pools, and my mum used to be an architect, and she did a lot of measuring when I sort of floated this idea to try and work out if, like, where it was level, if I had enough pavers sort of that we'd found stashed around the property, plus the few extra that I'd bought for various other projects and had like one or two left over. And she worked out that in this corner I need to raise it by about 1.5 centimeters, an inch or so. I can't remember the exact amount, which probably would be helpful right about now, but whatever. But this whole section, as I'm laying the pavers over there, even if I leave these pavers in place, they are significantly lower than those ones. So without a significant amount of sand, I can't get that level, and I cannot lift that much sand, and sand is expensive as hell. So I'm just going to wait for my dad in his travels to come across more broken bags and bring them round. But what I'm going to do is all along here, around the stairs, around here, through here, I'm going to use the sand that I have to lift that up. And where possible, I'm going to raise this level so that at least the water then runs down that way. And then if my dad comes across 6 million bags of sand on the cheap, then eventually I might lift these pavers. I'll lift the broken ones. In order to get this right, I'm probably going to have to lift a few. Hopefully it's only a few. We'll see how we go. This gap here is really annoying. I do have one paver that's like maybe 1 centimeter too narrow, but everything else is either too narrow or too wide. So we'll see how we go. And hopefully we have this done this afternoon and we can start potting up and making it look pretty.
dressed with clothes of skin and hide. There seemed an ancient knowledge, your books they kept inside. Fought 1,000 times, and I'd like to think I won, but they arguably were stalemates, defeats a one-on-one. About it now, I was someone else before, a ruler of a kingdom with nothing at the core, lived in empty chambers, knocking down the city door.
This corner here is where I really needed to raise things up about an inch or so, and I thought I'd got pretty close to that with the amount of sand I'd put in, but the pavers were also quite a bit different thickness to some of the other ones I'd used, so it ended up being a little bit higher. I don't know if the sand will compact down more over time, but it's just made more difficult by the fact that whoever laid the initial tiles, you can see how big the gap was between the tiles that I just lifted and now I'm replacing here and the slab of the house, and so it makes it a little bit difficult to try and work with what was already there without lifting all the other tiles, and I just don't have the energy and don't have the sand to lift all the tiles, so I just had to make it work as best I could, and I found some half-ish bricks and tried to fill some gaps, but there are definitely some spots that I think will be resolved at some point when I get more sand and lift the other pre-existing pavers and then reset them all, but that's not going to happen anytime soon. And you can see there's like a little gap here, and that's just because of the way they laid these initial two about 2 inches longer than the rest of them, and so I had to lift those tiles and shuffle them back to minimize the gap, but I still wasn't able to minimize everything, so some of it is going to have to be fixed by my dad cutting some brick pavers for me to size just to make it fit in the area, and some of it is going to have to be fixed by lifting the previous tiles with a bit of sand underneath them, which, as I said, is not happening anytime soon. After I did that, I got one of the last remaining bags of sand and started sweeping it into the gaps between the pavers, and there's it's a lot of sand to sweep in between, but it's amazing how much sand actually needs to go in between the pavers. I do have bags of white sand in the car to continue it up so it's not a bright yellow sand on the top layer, but I just wanted to get some in today, and I just couldn't lift any more sand. It was just completely cooked, and any of the excess can come off the pavers and start filling up that area where I need to build it up by quite a bit to be able to make the path as wide as what I want it. So we're finished on the courtyard, and I'm really happy with the way it turned out. It's not 100% done. I cannot lift another bag of sand, and I have white paving sand to continue to sweep in the gaps in between the bricks, but I just want to let today's sand settle in. Maybe I'll water it in, maybe I'll just lift the sand out and do it when I feel like I can lift sand again, but I feel like I've lost that ability now. I am sitting on top of almost like a trench style gap just here and here. No matter what I did, I couldn't work out without lifting all of these pavers an arrangement that would allow me to make it tight, and even then this middle piece I would still have. So I really need my dad to come down with like a saw or something and cut some pavers for me so that I can make it fit, make that gap fit, and then I can finish it off. Also, obviously, as I said, this corner needed to be higher for the water. I think I made it a touch too high, but by the time I actually have to get around to lifting these pavers, and when I get more sand and putting it underneath, it'll all be fairly level. But for now it's not, which is totally fine, because generally speaking this has been a weedy mess, so I don't actually come out here and even hang out my clothes because I can't even get through. Obviously now I can. I've got the pots situated roughly where, yes darling, where I want them. Again, we need more sand, but what I would like to do is extend the pavement out this way, in which case this pot will move slightly out to this side, but I've got it so it's kind of like an undulating pathway for me to come through. I bought two Manzanillo olives, and this one looks like it's starting to fruit up, even though it's got attacked by the black lacewing olive bug thing. So I'm just gonna have to keep treating them with neem oil. They desperately need to be planted out. As I said, they've been in these nursery pots for nearly a year. They're going in these big beautiful containers here. Hopefully that'll contain their growth a little bit. And that one is a Bambolina olive, and that one my brother's partner gave to me when I got home from hospital. It's also got the olive lacewing thing, so I'm treating them all, but hopefully we can salvage them. These style pots are going to have the Roald Dahl David Austin roses in them, which are the ones I associate with Ollie. We've got another one here and another one just off to the side here in the center. And then some of these little pots already have things like, this one's a pyrethrum plant, and we also have an English lavender. This one will also be a David Austin rose, but the 3 honeycomb shaped planters are going to be for the flannel flowers when they are back in stock and when I can get them. And then I'm just going to plant some colour, like I think some more English lavender and things like that in the surrounding small ones. And we've got another pyrethrum daisy over there, which is going to give us some early spring colour. And obviously, in my experience, the David Austin roses have pretty much taken us all the way through to midwinter before they fade, and the flannel flowers will be a winter and early spring flower. So I hope you guys have enjoyed doing this project. Obviously I wish we were doing this for fun and not for the reasons that we are doing it for, and obviously under very different circumstances than for me to remember my boy by, but here we are. In our next video here on The Learning Gardener, we're going to plant up all these containers together. I need to pick up a few plants in order to do that, and the flannel flowers, as I said, aren't available as yet. And I need to get some potting mix and things like that out of the car, and I am not interested in lifting them right now. We are completely done for the day. So I hope you guys have enjoyed seeing this multi-day transformation project, and hopefully you like what we've created. Thanks so much for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.